You know how you shouldn't put your hand on a burner cause you know it's hot and you know you're gonna burn yourself, but you do it anyway? That's what it's like being a Lions fan. Somehow I've convinced myself that we have an actual chance at winning in Dallas this week. Somehow I've convinced myself that we're gonna go into Jerry World this weekend and beat the Cowboys.
Welcome to Detroit!
Welcome back to the channel, everybody. As you guys know, I'm Hat and Beard. We're here to discuss the Week 7 matchup with the Detroit Lions traveling to Dallas to square off against the Cowboys. There's a few things that we're going to look at from the Detroit side, a few things we're going to look at from the Dallas side, and then I'm going to give you my overall summation of what I expect to have happen. Now, my expectation and my hopes of what are going to happen are two entirely different things, but we'll get into it. The number one thing that we need to focus on with our Lions offense, at least this week, is are we going to be able to shut down Micah Parsons? Micah Parsons had a really bad week in Philadelphia, and Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles might have exposed how to stop Micah Parsons, and strangely enough, that is to not block him at all. It's a weird concept, but it worked. I mean, now granted, Jalen Hurts is slightly more mobile than Jared Goff, which allowed him to extend plays a little bit, but we need to come out and we need to stop Micah Parsons from doing Micah Parsons type things, especially after the embarrassment that we suffered at the hands of Matt Judon and company in New England 2 weeks ago, where, I mean, we're supposed to have this top flight, all world beaters, no one's ever seen an O-line this good before in the history of the NFL offensive line. It's supposed to be our strong point, what we hang our hat on, and yet you let the New England defense, who's not a top flight Super Bowl caliber defense, at least not now, and they weren't what they were 10 years ago, come out and drop as many sacks on us and just dismember our entire offensive line the way they did, especially considering that you had returners, healthy guys coming back like Jonah Jackson, who, if I'm being honest, I know he went to the Pro Bowl last year, but I'm starting to think maybe Jonah Jackson isn't the answer at left guard. I still really like Dan Skipper, and as it stands this year, I'm going to say Dan Skipper's outplayed Jonah Jackson. All that is irrelevant. Can we stop Micah Parsons? That is the number one thing that we need to focus on, at least from our offensive scheme. I'm not going to really worry about our defense. Our defense is trash, man. There's no sense in really worrying about the defense, so we're going to focus mostly on our offense. And can we stop Micah Parsons? Because if we can stop Micah Parsons elevates the play of Quandre Diggs. That's something I've harped on over and over and over again. That's how DNs directly benefit corners, right? If you can have a rush edge, I don't want to say a DN, but a rush edge, an outside linebacker, someone who can apply pressure regularly on a quarterback, that's going to elevate the play of your defensive backs. I mean, look at how well Jeff Okudah was playing, at least in the Commies game. Now, I know the Commies are not really a team to be hanging your hat on and saying, oh, look what we did to the Washington Commies, but when we were able to get pressure on Carson Wentz, Jeff Okudah was able to play well. Our secondary didn't look as awful as they were, but then, you counter that with, we got no pressure on Geno Smith the following week, and look what Geno Smith did to us. Geno Smith looked like all world beaters now. I know that the argument can be said now after 6 weeks of the NFL product being out and on display. Russell Wilson looking like absolute garbage in Denver, and Geno Smith looking sensational in Seattle. It could be said that Geno Smith is benefiting from the Pete Carroll system, and I would agree with that. I guess the real question, or the real way to answer that, is if Drew Lock were to have this type of success that Geno Smith is having, then it's arguably a quarterback system that is very quarterback friendly, and that's why you see Russell Wilson, just burying the Broncos, dude. I mean, and let me ask you a question. Let me ask you guys a question. Drop down a comment down in the chat below. What situation would you rather be in as a general manager? Would you rather be in the Denver Broncos situation where you auctioned off the house to bring in Russell Wilson and then you locked him up until he's 40 years old? Or would you rather be in the Detroit situation where you definitely don't have necessarily the salary cap the last 2 years to make a lot of moves, but we have a tremendous amount of draft stock and future salary cap maneuverability, so that 2-3 years after you took over the organization, you would be able to basically do whatever you want as far as drafting players, signing players, as long as you have a winning product on the field and a coach that maybe makes better decisions than going for 59 times in 20-some games. Will St. Brown and Swift be back? And if they are back, are they going to be healthy? Because we've seen in the New England game, Amon-Ra St. Brown tried to give it a go, and he was nothing more than a decoy. Didn't even look like Amon-Ra, man. Looked like somebody out there running around in a weird amon-ra St. Brown skin suit, man. It was ugly. Swift has had flat tires since we made sure that he popped them against the Washington Commies game. You know, he got dinged up in the Minnesota game. Or no, I'm sorry, he got dinged up in the Eagles game. Then he played sparingly in the Commies game, and then he went out entirely in the Minnesota game, if I'm not mistaken. I'm a big fan. I'm also a huge hater because I really like what he can bring to the table. I just don't think he's got the durability. He's done nothing in the past 3 years to show me that he can withstand the workload of a 17-week regular season. I mean, it's just not panning out for him the way that I think it would be, which is why we have a nice complimentary back in Jay Willie. Unfortunately, Jay Willie is a ground and pound guy, and our offense is a little bit more aired out, and which is strange because Dan Campbell said, he was supposed to be Mr. Hey man, we're here to run the ball and play tough-nosed defense, man, and you haven't done any of that. I mean, all you do is throw the ball around because your defense sucks so bad that you can't establish a running game because you're always playing catch-up because, well, you're like, hey man, I hire my friends, man. That's why I hired Aaron Glenn to be the defensive coordinator, man, because I think he knows what he's talking about, man. He's my buddy, man, which is like if you look at the Detroit Lions coaching staff and all the problems that are wrong with it, with all the hiring and stuff and all of the just failing upwards, I guess you could say, it's almost a perfect comparison of everything that's wrong with the American workforce right now and how everything is, you would say managed, I would say mismanaged. Shark might be out there, but Shark and Hawk are both busts. They're both washed. They're both deadbeats. I don't want to hear anything more about DJ Shark being a weapon. I don't want to hear any more about, oh, well, maybe if we can get Hawk involved. Hawk won't get involved. Hawk sucks, dude. I said it. TJ Hawkinson sucks. He's washed. He's a bust, dude. Let James Mitchell run all your routes. Let Brock Wright run your routes, dude. Let Shane Zylstra get some reps, dude. Man, I'm over TJ Hawkinson. I'm over first round tight ends. There's no reason to take a tight end in the first round. Tight ends are essentially a worthless position now. All you are is fat, slow wide receivers. Most of you can't even block anymore, and half the time you guys refuse to make diva catches even though you try and pretend that you're a diva. The only tight ends worth having in the league right now are Kelsey and Andrews. The only reason most of us even talk about tight ends anymore is because we play fantasy football, and let's be honest, the tight end hasn't been, other than the top two, Kelsey and Andrews, tight ends haven't really been relevant in fantasy football in 6 years. And I guess this is the big question in everybody's mind. With us having the bye week and an extra week to, lick our wounds and get healthy, which is something I'm tired of saying, and this kind of harkens to the Brad Holmes thing, is I'm getting really sick and tired of, well, when this guy comes back, when this guy gets healthy, if this guy can come back from his injury. I'm so sick of that conversation, man. Why can't we just have guys produce and play? But that's the boat we're in right now. We're in the if guys come back, can they help out? Can they contribute? Which is a benefit because we got the bye week to get healthy. We got the bye week to kind of clear our heads and maybe reset a little bit. And we have the bye week to hopefully MCDC and AG have retooled our defense and figured out how to utilize the talent at our disposal, because now it is looking like Josh Pascal, I keep calling him Zach Pascal, that's a wide receiver. Josh Pascal is our defensive end, our second round draft pick out of Kentucky. Josh Pascal is trending towards playing, looks like. I'm sure he'll be on a pitch count. Still no Romeo Okwara, but if Josh Pascal can play again and contribute, I'm not saying come in and be an all-world beater. What I would like to see is, can he come in and be a John Kaminsky style player, which that's another huge boon that nobody's really considering, is that Kaminsky will be back this week. John Kaminsky coming back, everyone's like, why is that relevant? Well, John Kaminsky was the other bookend that allowed Aiden Hutchinson to get pressure because he would set an edge solid enough that it would collapse the pocket down around the wide receiver, or around the quarterback. So Kaminsky coming back, Pascal playing. Will we have a better defense now that we're starting to trend upwards into, I don't want to say healthy because of Tracy Walker being out and our corners all sucking, but we're starting to get back some players, Hopefully the Okwara brothers will be ready to go. Maybe our defensive tackles have figured it out in between then and now. Will Pascal play? Will Pascal be a contributing member of the defense? Will Pascal and Kaminsky elevate Aiden Hutchinson's play the way that we all need them to, and are kind of expecting them to? And then the final question about the defense. Will AG start scheming our second overall pick, Aiden Hutchinson, who is a Heisman Trophy finalist? Will you start scheming him into a position where he's able to be successful? And by that I mean, yes, he is good at playing interior and stopping the run for a short period of time. He can play the edge for a short period of time. The amount of reps that he was getting was outpacing any other defensive end in all of football. So what we know is that Aiden Hutchinson was very successful at getting pressure on a quarterback in college because of 2 reasons. One, he had David Ajabo, a solid end on the other side. He also ran out of a 2-point stance. I don't want to say the majority of the time, but when he wanted to get pressure, he would take his hand out of the dirt. So, will AG, MCDC, and the boys be understanding in how to utilize your players? Will you take Aiden Hutchinson's hand out of the dirt? Will you start scheming him around and utilizing him like the defensive weapon that we know he can be? Let's look at the Cowboys side of things and what we need to focus on them and how we can maybe take advantage of, find some holes, or figure out how we're going to beat the pissed off Dallas Cowboys. The number one thing we're looking at is you have a strength versus strength matchup. You have Big PP Ben Johnson squaring off against Little PP Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys. The Cowboys are built on defense this year. Their offense is trash. Okay, Zeke's washed for now. The wide receivers are, I mean, yes, CeeDee Lamb is good and Michael Gallup can be good, but they're not what they were with Amari Cooper. Dak Prescott's coming back from injury. The Dallas Cowboys' strength is on defense. Micah Parsons, Quandre Diggs, they get a lot of pressure, and they're high-flying, high-octane defense. The exact opposite of our defense, right? Our defense is trash. Our strength is on our offense. So when you have a strength versus strength matchup, really it comes down to who's going to make more mistakes. Our offense doesn't necessarily make a lot of mistakes as far as penalties. I know Goff has thrown a few bad interceptions. We put the ball on the turf a couple of times. Man, strength versus strength. You got 2 gold jackets squaring off against one another with Micah Parsons and Penei Sewell. That'll be a fun fight to watch. I think Penei Sewell comes out on the plus side of that, but it's a toss-up, man, because these are 2 very well-matched units. The offense and the defense. I mean, it's a toss-up. It's a coin flip. I really couldn't tell you who's going to come out ahead. I mean, I don't like Dan Quinn. I do like Big PP Ben Johnson. I'm gonna say that Big PP Ben Johnson can scheme players out. Can scheme out Micah Parsons. Can scheme to get the ball away from Trayvon Diggs. I don't know, man. It's a toss-up, but that's the big story of the game, is our strength versus their strength. Second thing we want to look for on the Cowboys is with their franchise QB, Dak Prescott, returning. Hey, Dak Prescott. I'm not sold on Dak Prescott. I've never been sold on Dak Prescott. He's a quarterback in the NFL. That's what Dak Prescott is. But with Dak coming back from injury, again, and their offensive line being dinged up, still. Can our defense do enough? Can our defense do enough to stop the Dallas Cowboys' very vanilla offense? I mean, it's look, we know what we're going to get. We're going to get Dak trying to play himself back into shape. So you're going to see a lot of short passes. You're going to see a lot of Dalton Schultz be utilized, which means our linebackers are going to get taken advantage of, which hopefully means Malcolm Rodriguez had a big bye week so he can learn to cover a little bit better, because as great of a player as he is, he's still got them stubby little Malcolm Rodriguez legs, and he just can't quite cover guys the way that we would like him to. And you're going to see just a shitload of Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard. That's what you're going to see. You're going to see Zeke's big old fat ass rolling at you 28 times, man. That's what it's going to be. As washed as I think that Zeke is, watch Detroit come out and make Zeke look like the first-round pick that he was, 7 years ago. Watch Zeke come out and look like an all-world beater. Watch this be the game that Zeke figures out how to run the ball again and returns to form, and then basically pushes Tony Pollard out of Dallas because he's just going to take up all the carries, man. I don't know. I'm hoping that's not what's going to happen, but the stats don't lie. Our defense can't stop a nosebleed, let alone an 800-pound Ezekiel Elliott rolling after a cheeseburger looking like a fat kid chasing down a cupcake, man. Like, it just ain't going to happen, bro. It just ain't going to happen, but if we can fluster Dak, if we can shut down Zeke, if we can fluster Zach, if we can get some or Dak, if we can get some pressure on the quarterback, and we got a puncher's chance at winning this thing, fellas. And that's really what it comes down to, guys. Can we stop Zeke from looking like an all-star? Can we get in Dak's face? Can we put up more than 28 points? And can we stop their offense from scoring more than 24 points? If we can do those things, I would say we can win. But this is a Dan Campbell coached football team. So, even if we do all of those things, Dan Campbell, I'm going to address you directly now. I like you, Dan. I like you a lot, man. I really wish, man, you figure it out, man. I was really hoping that you'd be our savior, man. Stop going for it on 4th down. I just solved 90% of your problems. Stop going forward on 4th down, Dan. Get in Dak's face. Stop Zeke. Quit going forward on 4th down. Somehow, fellas, I've talked myself into it. Somehow I've talked myself into the Lions are going to win this one. Yep. Lions are going to go put up 31. Lions are going to win 31-24 in Dallas. That's what's going to happen. Dan Campbell and AG are going to coach a decent game and shut us up for a few days. But I don't know if he's the answer, man. I don't know. We'll see. That's going to do it for me, guys. It's been a fun week back from the bye week. You know, it's snowing, which means that, yay, winter. Can't wait. I've been Hat and Beard. You've been an attentive audience. We'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later. Peace.